Hey guys, welcome back to Shredcraft RC, and I'm Cam, and today doing something a little different. Not something that I've done a lot on this channel, but a brand reached out and asked if I wanted to try out a motor that I haven't used and an ESC that I haven't used. And if you'll notice, my custom built crawler here has no transmission in it, no motor. And I have my custom built, not custom built, but just built VFD Vanquish transmission, and there's no motor in there. This transmission features the lightweight front gears, and then I've built this one all with titanium hardware, the lightweight motor plate, the aluminum standoffs, the goodies from Vanquish. So this brand, forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, but I believe it's SEQURE? I'll put the spelling of it here, and then check out how small this box is. So if you know, I was trying to build this crawler to be a super lightweight or somewhat more lightweight than stock crawler. So again, all titanium hardware. I have a low profile NSDRC RS650 LP servo in there. And then I actually just recently 3-linked the front and put on my aluminum Vanquish axles. So all the weight is down low on this truck. And then going along with that, check out how small this box is. Super tiny. So in here we have a Outrunner brushless motor, and I'll get some better shots of this when I pull it all out of the box. But this is an 1800kv brushless Outrunner motor. I've never used an Outrunner motor, so I'm really excited to test that out and see how it does. So along with that, this system runs off the AM32 ESC system. So fully programmable and configurable, changing it, all the parameters basically. So they have a tiny little Wi-Fi link here. That will be fun to try out. And then the ESC system. And so this is a super lightweight, tiny board basically that operates the motor and everything. So again, I've never really used one of these. Like I said in some of my previous videos, I've only used the Hobbywing Fusion systems in my crawlers just because they always work. And I feel like Hobbywing just kind of makes the standard quo for go-to motors and ESCs when it comes to the RC hobby. So this looks like it's a newer brand. They reached out. They're not paying me. I will include links down in the description if you want to pick one up for yourself or give it a shot, try it out. They seem super friendly with the emails that we exchanged, and so I'm going to go ahead, open this stuff up, and we'll turn it on and then check out how we can configure it, and then I think toss it in the truck and see how it does. So be sure to stay tuned and we'll dig right in. So I got it all laid out here. If you can see, this stuff is really small. And then I have their webpage loaded up here that has all the parameters and stuff like that. So this looks like it is a 70 amp ESC, and then it has a BEC that supports all sorts of different variations. This servo I only run 7.4 volts, maybe 8.4. I don't need any super strong servo, not a competition crawler by any means. I'm more interested in trying out this Outrunner motor. I'm more interested in seeing how it compares to the big motor cans that fill up this whole area on the VFD transmission. So in the future I could probably get the Stubby kit, which shortens this whole length of the VFD transmission, makes it a much smaller unit, and it looks like that would be able to be accomplished pretty easily with this short Outrunner motor. It looks like I will need to solder on the Dean's connector that I have for my standard batteries that I use on this truck, and then we can go ahead and power it up and see what it's all about. So I've got everything hooked up here. This is the SEQURE AM32 70 amp ESC, and then their paired 1800kv brushless Outrunner motor. I got everything hooked up to my FlySky Noble here, and I gotta say my initial impressions are pretty good. It seems like it is very smooth on startup and has a lot of control at very low wheel speed. So the way it does this is it works off a sine wave before it goes to the pulse width modulation wave, is my understanding. I am also not the best at electronics knowledge. I'm very much so more a mechanically minded person, but I've always wanted to try an Outrunner brushless motor here, and so it's pretty cool getting to see it spin. And then you can definitely tell I have plenty of room to install that stubby kit, which will shorten up these standoffs on the VFD transmission and save some weight there on the front end. It's pretty cool. I'll put a few of my test shots in here kind of while I'm playing with the setup here. I did load up the Wi-Fi app, but after testing it initially on the bench here, it doesn't seem like I need to tune anything. I don't see any errors with the stock tune on this. The next thing to do will be to get it out on the rocks and see how this thing performs in actual crawling scenarios. I have some footage from earlier this year in 2025 where I ran this truck with the Hobbywing Fusion 1800kv motor, so I feel like it will be a very good comparison to compare this motor ESC setup to some of that footage I got prior. The only thing I did differently to this truck so far is that I added some heavier shock weight oil, and I went up to 70 weight in the front and rear on these, and then I changed these rear shocks to these fake Draft Tech or whatever they're called, but these are just the cheap Amazon ones. I rebuilt them and then I put a different piston so they don't flex as much, and then I added 70 weight oil to slow down the action there. I had some people in the previous video I made with this truck saying, oh, this other chassis is much better, and this is a chassis I made to experiment with geometry and link position. I'm not comparing it to any other chassis. This is also all the stock VRD kit can bolt right in, and then I'm going to try out this 3-link setup on the front with the servo mounted to the chassis. Because I'm running the F10 aluminum axles, I won't be able to run the servo on axle mount until I put the stubby kit in. I'm also not claiming to be the best crawler driver or designer or anything. This is simply a chassis I made so I can learn and figure out what the different mounting points and geometry relates to as far as performance. So I have my links set up with the rear upper link in the middle hole here, and then the stock, bottom mount. And then in the front, what I found to be the most effective is running the top link in the top hole on the chassis. So the highest position gives me a little more link separation at the skid, and that's because when the chassis is sitting flat, let me see if I can put it down here. But then those links are parallel with each other, and in the rear there is rise, giving that anti-squat geometry. So again, I'll give this trigger a little pull, and you can see how slow this thing crawls. It's very cool. So the next thing we'll do is get it out on the rocks, see how it does in some real world scenarios. Well, during the filming of this video, we actually had an Arctic blast come in and the temperatures dropped and we got a bunch of snow, so haven't been able to get this out on the rocks yet and test it, but it has given me some time to kind of rearrange some of the electronics and get things kind of organized and cleaned up on this chassis, along with being able to get the stubby kit for this transmission to come in. So basically it will shorten these standoffs, shortening that motor and then saving some more weight on this chassis. Along with that, I'll be able to run the servo on axles setup with these aluminum F10 axles. And then I went back to the stock shock bodies, but I used the Losi Mini T springs because I had some extra cups lying around. So this actually, in theory, will help lower the center of gravity somewhat, but also being able to change the spring rate in the rear. And on all my crawlers, I typically think it's a better idea to run a stiffer rear setup because I was noticing a lot of torque twist with the stock springs being so light. Having a stiffer rear spring rate will help reduce some of that torque twist, along with adding 70 weight oil, so a higher viscosity oil in the rear shocks also added the 70 weight to the front. Overall, this chassis has pretty low center of gravity compared to some of my other RC trucks. Since it's so cold outside, I don't want to take this out. This isn't a waterproof ESC, but maybe we can set up some practical scenarios and see how it performs in the warmth of the house here. So we'll check it out. So that is the SEQURE 70 amp AM32 ESC and 1800kv Brushless Outrunner motor. And I gotta say, the first thing I noticed upon the initial tests are just how smooth the action is at low speed with very little throttle input. These wheels just kind of creep along. Another thing that I did notice was the jump between the sine wave to the pulse width modulation is you can hear it change from the action. So if you listen, you can actually see where those two change their action. And now I'm not an expert on tuning these ESCs, but I have been watching some videos to learn some of the aspects of the AM32. And it seems like some guys are able to tune that out or make it a little smoother so you don't have such an abrupt transition. Because one thing I noticed was when the wheels get loaded up and then you pull the trigger some more, it does that jump to wheel speed. Not necessarily something you always want in a crawler. You kind of want to keep it consistent and smooth all the way through. But overall, I gotta say I'm pretty impressed. Just upon these initial tests, like I said, I am going to have to get it out on the rocks and be able to see how it does on the normal trails and then compare it to some of that video footage that I have of this running the Hobbywing Fusion 1800. But as far as weight and performance and size of the ESC and motor, that's something that I really like. I'm really looking forward to getting this rig out on the rocks and trying it on some of the normal trails and stuff like that. But just playing around with it here in the house, I am impressed. And again, I will provide all the links and information down in the description below if you guys want to pick one of these up yourself. I believe this whole setup is pretty budget friendly, just around $70 or $80. So that's another plus and really cool aspect of having this kind of small technology in full 1/10 scale RC crawlers. So be sure to let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you like it, and be sure to subscribe for more awesome RC content from Shredcraft RC. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.